Press and hold the center power button to power on the bike. Hold down the plus and minus buttons simultaneously to reach the settings menu. Press the minus button to scroll down to the battery lock option. Press the center button to select the battery lock page, and then press it once again to unlock and eject the battery. Completely remove the wire loom from all of the cables coming from the controls. Use a 2.5mm hex wrench and remove the bolt from the left side frame grommet. Once removed, work out the two halves of the cable grommet and set them aside. Within the battery compartment, use a 2.5mm hex wrench to remove the two battery tray mounting bolts. We recommend stuffing a small towel around the terminal to prevent the bolts from falling into the frame. Lift the battery tray up and out of the bike. Use a 2.5mm hex wrench to remove the three battery lock mechanism mounting bolts. Let the lock slide out of place. On the back of the display, disconnect the harness cable with the blue connector. Feed the display harness back into the frame grommet hole. Guide it into the open area of the battery compartment. Now, disconnect the headlight connection and run it into the frame in the same manner as the display connection. Proceed to carefully cut the zip ties securing the motor harness to the frame. Unthread and disconnect the motor harness from the cable coming from the hub motor. With the bike upside down, use a 4mm hex wrench to unthread the center kickstand bolt. Use a Torx T40 to remove the other two kickstand bolts located on each side of the bike. Locate and begin to guide the kickstand cable out of the frame until the plug connection is accessed. Unplug the connection. Remove the center kickstand assembly by lifting it up and off of the bike frame. Use a 2mm hex wrench to remove the three cover plate bolts and remove the cover plate from the bike. Use a 3mm hex wrench to remove the four ACU mounting bolts from the bike. Press from below and release the ACU up and out of the access compartment. Unplug the two blue ACU cable connections. As well as the all-black taillight connection. Use a 3mm hex wrench to remove the three terminal mounting bolts first, followed by the three bolts that hold the controller in place. Carefully pull up the terminal followed by the controller to access the cable connections. Begin disconnecting the remaining plugs from the display harness, which are a single plug to the terminal connection followed by the first and the third plugs going to the controller. Pull up the remaining two cables from the frame that you already disconnected near the ACU. Swap the display harness. Feed the single display connection of the harness into the battery compartment, up and out of the left side frame grommet hole, and reconnect the harness to the display by aligning the arrows and firmly pressing the connection into the display. Now, guide the single headlight connection through the same path, exiting the frame grommet hole. Reconnect the plug to the headlight connection by aligning the arrows and firmly pressing them together. Reconnect the first and third plugs into the controller by aligning the arrows and firmly pressing the plugs in place. Reconnect the single plug that attaches to the terminal. With the remaining two connectors, guide them into the lower part of the frame to be pulled through the kickstand access hole. Guide the controller back up into the frame and align it to the mounting holes in the frame. Reinstall all three of the controller mounting bolts using a 3mm hex wrench. Ensure all three bolts are threaded in before final tightening. Push the cables in the battery compartment to the sides and align the terminal to its mounting holes. Reinstall all three of the terminal mounting bolts using a 3mm hex wrench. Ensure all three bolts are threaded in before final tightening. Reconnect the motor cable connection by aligning the arrows, firmly pressing them together, and threading the lock rings together to secure the connection. Group the nearby cables and replace the zip tie, securing them to the frame tab. Trim the excess zip tie. At the kickstand access hole, pull up and reconnect the harness connection to the tail light cable by aligning the arrows and firmly pressing them together. With the ACU dropped back in, reattach the two blue ACU connections by aligning the arrows and firmly pressing each pair of the connections together. Feed the excess cables into the frame compartment. Use a 3mm hex wrench to reinstall all 4 bolts that secure the ACU in the frame. Reinstall the cover plate by aligning the holes and reinstalling the 3 bolts using a 2mm hex wrench. Get the kickstand and drop it into the mounting position. Reconnect the cable connection by aligning the arrows and firmly pressing them into one another. Feed the cable and connection back into the access hole in the frame under the kickstand assembly. Mount the kickstand by first installing the center bolt using a 4mm hex wrench. Do not yet tighten fully. And follow up by reinstalling the final 2 bolts on each side using a Torx T40. Once all are threaded in, fully tighten all 3 kickstand bolts. Torque the center bolt 4 to 5 Nm and torque the side Torx bolts 20 to 22 Nm. With the bike positioned upright, guide the battery lock mechanism back into place and reinstall the 3 mounting bolts using a 2.5mm hex wrench. Ensure all 3 bolts are threaded in before final tightening. With the cables moved to the side of the battery compartment, replace the battery tray and align it to the mounting holes. Reinstall the 2 battery tray mounting bolts using a 2.5mm hex wrench. We recommend stuffing a small towel around the terminal to prevent the bolts from falling into the frame. Reinstall the battery by inserting the bottom end first and firmly pressing the top to lock it in place. Press and hold the center power button to power on the bike and test for proper function. Lastly, reinstall the 2 halves of the frame grommets on the left side and secure them with the original bolt. Use a 2.5mm hex wrench to tighten the bolt. Wrap the exposed cables using the wire loom from earlier. Begin wrapping from the frame end of the cables and work your way up to the handlebar and controls.